生はゲームです。みんな必死になって戦って生き残る価値のある大人になりましょう。バトルロワイヤル。
Hello, I'm back. It's been a while, but I'm back. Or transition into this image. Transition. The image is not straight here. What an incredible job I've done here. There we go. That looks a bit better. Hello, how's everyone doing? This is a very late stream for me, but I don't care. We're going to be covering all the films that I saw at the London Film Festival. So if you didn't watch the last stream when I talked about this, last stream, I talked about 4 movies. So it was interesting. Not as many as we're going to be talking about today. I'm just going to check something as I'm multitasking, and I'll focus on the stream at hand. I'll be a good streamer. I'll create good content. Just making sure everything looks good, everything looks nice, everything looks pog. Right. So last time when we left off, we only talked about 4 movies. The 4 movies we talked about on last stream were Emily the Criminal, I Love My Dad, Crows Are White, and Mini Zlatan and Uncle Darling. If you want to hear my reviews for those movies, check out the other video on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Twitch, it's on YouTube. All my VODs are going to be on YouTube like permanently, so you want to see that, go and watch that video. So yeah, this week we are going to talk about the rest of the movies I saw at the festival. I saw 16 more movies. Well, we'll say saw in air quotes. We'll get to some of those later. But I watched 16 more movies, and we're gonna get into the first one. I'm gonna be showing film posters for all these movies, so it's clear which ones I'm talking about. I'm gonna do my best to really go over them. I'm not gonna rush them. Hopefully this is good. Yeah, I just want to get them all talked about, and then I think that for written review stuff, I'm gonna do written reviews for the top my 5 favorite from the festival. Really show some love to those movies. So yeah, on we go with the first movie that I saw after Mini Zlatan and Uncle Darling, which was and then I gotta fix this display capture, don't I? Cause it's warped. There we go. Transition. There we go. Was The Woman in the White Car, and this movie is absolutely fantastic. I really dig this movie a lot. This movie is a South Korean thriller. It's kind of like a whodunit, like police procedural movie. So it follows a detective or a policewoman who, after has to investigate a incident at a hospital where a person drives up in a car, comes out, and one woman is severely, like, has broken hands, unconscious, being stabbed, has both her hands broken, and is like unconscious and severe injury, and another woman who, while not as seriously injured, is clearly traumatized from the event. And it's about like kind of like the unravelings of discovering what happened, and then from there, like, uncovering the real the truth behind it all. This movie is I believe a first feature from the director, and it has a very excellent direction. I love its use of aspect ratios, especially when it's revealed how the aspect ratios are being used. It's very effective. I thought the actual mystery behind it, while I know that some people found it a bit over the top and silly, I found it to be very engaging and thrilling, and I never could guess where the film was going. There's a lot of great setups and payoffs. Nothing feels like it comes out of left hand and like feels cheap. There's no like cheap twist to the movie. In my opinion, there's a lot of great setups and payoffs, and it's just a very great movie. And there's a lot of like violence towards women in this movie, especially like men towards women. And I felt that it was handled very tastefully. Like, it's never. I always said this about, especially like with like domestic scenes, like you don't want to make domestic violence look cool, if that makes sense. Like, it can't be shot like an action scene. Like, this shit isn't cool. Like, this is horrific, and the way that they shoot it is very horrific and very well done and handled with a level of maturity that I think is important to the subject matter. But yeah, I think for a first feature, it's truly impeccable. It's really shocking how much I love this movie, especially because like I believe this had other premieres before London in English, and people were walking out of it not really fond of it. And I was like, I went in kind of lower expectations, and I came out absolutely. I would love to watch this movie again. I think it's great. I do have a few issues with it. I think that like it is a tad long. It is a tad. You do feel its pacing a bit. It's not too long. Like, it's not too long, but like I think if you shaved off like 5 minutes, it could have been like impeccable. And I think that some of the dialogue can be a bit, especially how they refer to people with like mental illness and stuff. It's a bit. I don't know if that was the point I'm going for, because it's been a while since I've seen the movie, and I really write notes when I watch movies because I like to pay attention. I don't like to really write stuff while I'm watching a movie, because I want to focus. But like the main character, I don't know if it's spoiled. They say that she has like schizophrenia, and the way that like one of the cops talks to her can be a bit problematic, like saying that you shouldn't believe her because she's like mentally ill and stuff. And I'm like, that's a bit yikes, you know. Just because someone's mentally ill, like, you know, there's ways to deal with it. But the main lady who is in, she was I can't remember. I'm not gonna say her name because I could probably butcher it. But she was the original caretaker in Parasite, who, you know, is allergic to peaches. Good way to say it. She is the main police woman in this movie. She's absolutely fantastic. All the cast are great. I don't think there's a single bad performance in this movie. But yeah, I think the biggest factor is the direction coming out of this. For a first feature, this is. It's not a first feature. It's like It's like very like early in their filmography. It's very strong, and I think that's great. Oh, and another criticism I think also holds back is there's sometimes some over editing in conversations. Like, it has like the Baz Luhrmann effect in Elvis, because I had an issue with that in Elvis as well. They kind of over edit conversations to like keep this fast pace going, and it leads to like just weird edits. But overall, it's a great movie. I highly recommend it. I give it 4 stars. It's a great movie. Yeah, highly recommend it. The Woman in the White Car. Next up, we have go click here. There's no poster for this movie because I think it had its world premiere. Anyway, it's the Blue Rules of Forgetfulness. I attempted to watch this movie. I got 10 minutes in. I found it extremely it never gravitated to me, so I stopped watching it. Yeah, I just didn't engage with this movie whatsoever, so I didn't finish it. I attempted to watch it, and I was like, the art style was not. It's like it's a collection of like animation shorts, and the art style and the visual presentation just wasn't for me, so I just stopped watching it. Full transparency. People, you may do your own research into this if you want to. If it seems like it's up your jam, it just wasn't for me. So no rating for this one since I didn't finish it, but you know, it wasn't for me. The next movie I watched was Inland, starring Mark Rylance and Rory Alexander. This has been described as like a modern fairy tale, and I wish it could be a fairy tale and that I didn't actually watch this movie. I really did not like this movie. I had no idea what was going on throughout the movie. Mark Rylance is great in it, but it's like great acting does not save a film, which I had no idea what was going on. I didn't really get the point of the movie, what the messaging of the movie was trying to go for. I was very uninterested throughout. I somehow managed to get to the end of it. There's some good sound design, I guess, and some interesting ideas, but it's a bit like I never found any of it worked or landed in any way. It's an hour and a half. I'll never get back. I just didn't really enjoy this movie. I'm gonna give this 1 star. I really don't like this movie. I'm not gonna talk about it ever again. It was pretty bad. I'm gonna be honest. The next film is Love Life. This movie is also great, and I'm not gonna say I had a blast watching this film. It's a great movie. However, I feel like its biggest issue is that it kind of does stagnate at the end. It kind of just I think that this biggest issue is its ending, but it's kind of slice of life based, so it makes sense why the film ends the way it does. It's not really meant to be like a open and shut narrative. It's definitely like a chapter. You could view it as a chapter in one's life. To be so, the general gist of this movie is, if I get the summary up, is Taiko and her husband Jiro are living a peaceful existence with her young son Kaita, when a tragic accident brings the boy's long lost father Park back into her life. To cope with the pain and guilt, Taiko throws herself into helping the deaf and homeless man. So it is a very interesting movie that has a very incredible opening. I think the opening of this movie is absolutely master. It's brilliant in terms of direction and acting and the story. The way it handles the accident in event is one part tragic and another part beautiful. It is so heart wrenching, and seeing people deal with grief is in this movie is very well handled, and I really enjoyed watching that aspect. Well, enjoyed as much as I could. It deals with a serious subject matter, but I feel it handles it with a lot of respect and nuance. And I think that, especially because I don't want to spoil the movie, of course, it could have went one of two ways. It could have. I think that if it was not executed as well as it did, you could probably. I could understand like people hating this movie. But I think it turns out to be really powerful at scenes. However, I feel by the time you get to the end, I just kind of like, I don't say it fell apart, because I think that's like a harsh turn of phrase, but like I felt like the narrative didn't really like, I don't want to say tied up in a nice bow, like present stuff, but it didn't have that shedding on top to like really elevate into like fantastic territory for me. It kind of just was great throughout, and the ending was just like, it's all right. There are a couple of scenes where the acting is not, could have done an extra take on. I felt some of it was a bit like forced. I don't want to say forced, but it felt weird when watching it. But I think it's a great movie, and I really love the title of the movie. It kind of encapsulates many things about many other ideas. It deals with loving life, like love life could be referred to like someone's love life, like personal relationships with like husbands or like ex-lovers and stuff, and love life could also refer to loving life and appreciating the life that we have, and really continue on from there. I think that's a great movie. I hope that it gets a wide distribution. It's worth a watch. I gave this one 4 stars. I think this is a great movie, and it's worth checking out. But it's definitely a hard drama. I'm gonna be honest. It's very hard. It's a difficult watch, but I think it's a difficult but rewarding watch. So next up, I have Sick of Myself. This is a Norwegian movie. Could be wrong. I think it's Norwegian. I'm gonna Google that just now. I think it's Norwegian. it is about a so it follows the main character as her boyfriend becomes like a very famous sculptor, famous like for his abstract sculptures, and she basically devises a plan to become the center, like to seek sympathy from people and so on and so forth. This film, it's hard to describe this film because I don't really actually. I think that the less you know about it, the better, kind of, because I went in knowing nothing. I kind of just knew like it's about like the general plot. So I'll read the summary because like it's hard. I think that the summary best sums up, and I'm not going to throw any other plot point from there. So Signe and Thomas are in an unhealthy competitive relationship, which takes an evil turn when Thomas suddenly breaks through as a contemporary artist. Signe makes an effort to regain her status by creating a person who can attract sympathy. And that's all I'm going to say relating to the plot, because I think if you go in knowing absolutely nothing, it's going to be the most rewarding experience for this movie. What I will say its biggest achievement is making me interested in characters you absolutely despise. The two main leads are absolutely awful. Like in terms of like not awful in terms of like their performances, but the two main leads in terms of like the characters are awful people, and they're written to be awful people, and that's really hard. But it's really hard to make a film interesting about awful people, and like to like keep me engaged, because it's like there's only so much you can handle when it comes to like awfulness, if that makes sense. And I think this film actually does a good job of keeping you intrigued about how far the rabbit hole they'll go. It points horrifying, it points hysterical. It's a very interesting movie. I don't know if it'll work for everyone. I thought it worked for me. I know that another person I talked to didn't find it was like, I didn't hate it and got some of it, but like there's some really weird moments, like because like there's some great editing. So for example, the main character, because of her personality, kind of has has visions of the future. We'll say visions, like because she's like a visions isn't the correct word, but it's like she kind of like we see like how her mind works in certain scenes, and some scenes they work really well, but other times it kind of leads to confusion. And there's some scenes that happen that even now I don't know how they connect to the rest of the movie. It's just really, and I found that the ending did not work for me whatsoever. The film just kind of ended, and I was like, oh, is that it? Like, I thought there'd be some big comeuppance or some bigger moment to like I said, going back to my analogy, like the cherry on top to this piece, because I feel like I don't think the end is really satisfying for the narrative they're telling in any way, shape, or form. But I still had a good time. When the film is a really funny movie, but like I said, I think that's not going to be for everyone. If you don't mind watching movies about awful people, yeah, give it a watch. I give it 3.5 stars. I think it's a good movie, really good movie. But like I said, I don't think it's going to be for everyone. So the next movie I watched is PF, and I didn't finish this movie either. I got half an hour in. I wasn't really vibing it. It was too weird for me. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Didn't finish it, so no rating for this one. Hidden Letters. This is a documentary about a language in China that women composed during an era when women could like talk to each other, and they were kind of like bound by their feet, so they couldn't leave the house. So they made up this language on pots and like other things to tell messages and tell stories and stuff. And it deals with like the modern view of this language. And this documentary is at one part fascinating and absolutely devastating. The way they commercialized this language being commercialized by men is absolutely disgusting, and it shook me to my core. It's also a really interesting documentary about women empowerment in China and the role of women in China. There's some really depressing moments when women are talking about giving up their passions for like men and stuff, and there's like a man early on in this documentary that is very much a rude person and not a nice person. But yeah, it's a really fascinating documentary. Yet again, I think it's another thing, the less you know, the better. because it's really fascinating. I would highly recommend this movie. It has some beautiful cinematography as well. So it's a great looking movie. Especially for a Talking Heads documentary, it's really well presented. I find that Talking Heads were like the pace was really well. It's good. It's I'm not feeling well. I have a cold, so I'm my best. It's snappy. It's never it's always going at a nice pace. You learn new things. The way it presents everything is great. I had a really good time with this documentary. I would highly recommend this documentary to people. Don't know when it's being released, so I hope it gets released somewhere. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's a really good documentary. Out of the 2 documentaries I watched at the festival, this is my favorite one. Crows Are White was really good, but I think this is better. And yeah, because I think the end, I think this whole film is interesting because Crows Are White, where I loved 2/3 of that movie. But yeah, it's a great documentary. Highly recommend this movie. Really good. The next film is I think it's called The Woman in the Chinese Shop. I watched 10 minutes of it. Did not enjoy this movie whatsoever. I found the narration to be heavy-handed. There was no story for the first 10-15 minutes. I had no idea what was going on, so I stopped watching it. No rating. But I did attempt to watch this movie. The next film is Maya, Nilo, and Laura. This is a film about 2 sisters and one of the sisters' daughter going on a journey to Portugal as they think their mum has cancer and is going to die. This movie is it's just a decent road trip movie. It deals with a lot of modern issues one part is to do with kind of not long distance friendships, like people you meet off the internet, and it deals with the issues with family issues with parents between the parents and the sisters and careers and how they treat each other. But I think this biggest issue is that for me personally, it just didn't really sink its claws into me that well. It was an enjoyable watch, but it wasn't one that I walked out of thinking, oh, I can't wait to recommend this to people. I can barely remember certain scenes that happened in the movie. I know that I enjoyed it, but it's at the same time, it just was it was one of those films, it was good, I'll never watch it again. But yeah, I give this film 3 stars. That's all I can really say. There's some great cinematography in the movie. I think that it's a nice looking movie, even though I feel like they stole some shots at times, to be honest, because of how certain things were framed and the way that people looked at them on the streets. It felt like they just kind of stole a shot and got it done. They just kind of did it. And the way they shoot some of the driving scenes makes you feel like they kind of just drove on the roads and just shot the scenes. But yeah, it was a good movie. 3 stars. Give this one 3 stars. Wouldn't watch it again. The next one is Utama. This movie it's a beautiful movie that is absolutely boring. I found this movie to be so boring. It is a beautiful film with beautiful cinematography, with great scores. The sound design is awesome, but the story is just so lackluster, and I was never interested in this movie. There's a big plot point about the older generations not receiving healthcare because they have to do their work and stuff because they're kind of, I don't want to say they're farmers, but they kind of they work with llamas, and they're I gotta do my role for my land and stuff, and they don't seek medical attention, and I absolutely despise plot lines like that. I find them uninteresting. I don't care. I think that if you don't seek medical attention when you're clearly sick, you're an idiot. And I know that this is a different type of movie because of and it is realistic, but also I will always justify it. Just because something's realistic doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. So yeah, I just did not enjoy this. I think that the one more thing about it, it was I didn't enjoy it, but at the same time, it's very well made. It's clearly expertly made and expertly crafted. The cinematography is great. It's well edited. It's the soundtrack was good, but I just found it to be so dull. I gave this one 2.5 stars. It probably might go down to 2, but I'm gonna leave it 2.5 because I didn't really I found it boring and I didn't really like the movie. I didn't hate them. I didn't find it like I didn't have it like I didn't like it, but I didn't necessarily have an overall negative experience. I just was like it's one of those things like I don't think it's 2 stars, but I also don't think it's 2.5 stars. It's in this weird middle ground for me in that sort of area. But we'll keep it at 2.5. You know, we'll bump it up because I think it's closer to a 2.5 than it is a 2. The next film on that I watched was Fast and Feel Love. This movie is a Thailand cup stacking movie about a main character who wants to become the fastest, who wants to break the record for cup stacking. This movie is, I had a great analogy for this movie. This movie is like you go to the butcher and you get an excellent cut of meat, a delicious cut, a fantastic cut. However, the butchers forgot to take off some of the fat, so you gotta kind of like do that. And that's what this movie is. This is an excellent cut of meat that has excess fat and it needs to be cut off. Because I think there's a fantastic movie in here, but due to it being, I'm gonna say, I feel like way too long. This movie's over 2 hours long. That it really holds the movie back because this has some of the funniest moments I've ever seen in a movie this year. Some of this movie had me knee slapping with laughter. This has some fantastic jokes. It makes some fantastic movies it makes funny references to, obviously, because you can tell about the poster like Fast and the Furious. And there's a fantastic joke towards Parasite. There's some great jokes towards Star Wars that I found absolutely hysterical. It kind of like cliches in action movies a bit, like referring to there's not a lot of action to like the cup stacking. But yeah, there's just scenes that it's like it just goes on for too long. I think that this had like a tighter edit and it was like closer to like I think the overall runtime's 2 hours and 10 minutes. I think if this was an hour 50, hour 45, this movie could have been absolutely one of the best comedies of the year by far. Like, I think it still is one of the best comedies of the year because I don't think I'll need to check my list again, see if I've seen any other movies that are better. But I find that I think if it just was edited down a good bit, this movie could have been absolutely fantastic. I think all the characters are very well written and are very likable. The main girl, so basically the general plot is that he's a cup stacking, like trying to be the best at cup stacking, and he has his girlfriend, as you can see here, it's his girlfriend who is like always supporting him, like does all like the chores, cleans up the house, like does everything for him. And then one day she decides, and like I'm gonna say briefly, just because I don't want to give spoilers, she just decides to break up with him and like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. And she moves out, and he kind of has to like learn how to become an adult in the when he's 30 years old, finally become an adult. And I really thought I briefly skimmed over like the plot of it, but I think it's just like I said. I think that the reason why is because I don't want to spoil it, and I think that her motivations as to why she wants to leave and all that are expertly written. I find that you totally believe why she wants to. This film does like the impossible, in my opinion. It makes sure like you understand why she leaves and you completely agree with why she leaves, but at the same time you want to see the main character improve and become a better person. And I think that's really hard to do because you have to make him because why she leaves is because he's a shitty boyfriend. And for some people, like, that's a hard thing to find because you make him too shitty, he could be too unredeemable. But if you don't make him shitty enough, it could come across like she's kind of like overreacting. And I think this is like a perfect job at finding that middle ground where she is completely justified, but he is still redeemable. And I think that's its biggest strength, is that the two main leads are great. You totally buy into everything they do. You want him to become better as a cup stacker and as a person. And it's great. And you want to see the main female character, like, finally achieve what she wants to achieve, finally become the woman that she wants to be. And I think all that is great. It's too goddamn long. It's too long. Like, there's moments that are like kind of like, okay, we're still going. And between the moments that are just absolutely hysterical and I'm slapping my leg just over pure joy and excitement. This movie is, I think it's my favorite comedy of the year. I would have to check Letterboxd, but it's It's a great movie. That the jokes it makes, especially directly towards movies, are the one joke that kind of like involves around Parasite is absolutely hysterical. It is the funniest thing I've seen in a movie in like years. I think it finds a nice approach where it clearly is a homage to those, but I don't think it is a slap in the face to those movies, like kind of like a spoof. You know, I don't think I think that it's clearly done with love for those movies, but it's also making fun of it enough that it doesn't go into like spoof territory, and I think that's really important. The music score is really great. You know, well, always movie references in the score. There's clearly nods to like Star Wars, or I believe The Dark Knight has got a good couple of references in there. References like Taken and stuff. The soundtrack is great. This movie is just it's just really funny. I think it's on US Netflix already, so I would recommend this movie. Just know that it is a bit long. So if you do watch this movie under my recommendation, go, it felt long. Well, I'm warning you, it is a bit long, but I think it's a good watch. I give this 3.5 stars. I think this is a really good movie. Highly recommend it. So the next movie on my list is that I watched is The Woodcutter. This poster is terrible. I couldn't find a better one. The Woodcutter is a film about our main character here, and basically there's events surrounding him that like are tragic to like the town that he lives in, and he's kind of like living life nonchalantly. This film is adventurous in what it's trying to be, and sometimes it succeeds, and sometimes I think it fails. I think its biggest. There's a moment early on in the film that is utterly shocking that I loved it. I think it's great. It is thrilling. But nothing I think really reaches the highs. I respected what it was trying to do. I respected its weird and wacky tone. There's definitely like Lynchian vibes, like David Lynch style vibes to this movie. It didn't all work for me. You know, there's scenes involving cars that I still don't quite understand, and the ending was a bit mindfucky in a way that like I'm not the best when it comes to like metaphors and decoding metaphors. And I think I understood the point of the ending, but at the same time, I didn't really vibe with the end. Like it was just so, I found it like it felt really mishmashy because like. There's things that are quite literal in it, and then it becomes metaphorical, and I find that that's really hard to blend at times, like between literal events and metaphorical events. And I found that the mishmash didn't really work well in this movie. I still overall, it's like this is the same thing with like Utama, where I came out of it being like it is a very meh movie. But unlike Utama, where I think this is closer to being good than Utama was. I gave it 2.5 stars. This is closer to being a good movie than Utama was. I think Utama's more on the bad, like the 2.5 / bad side, but this is more on the 2.5 good side. I think that if it was more like the opening, like with the violent opening half hour, I think that would have been great. But yeah, it just doesn't stick to that tone throughout. So the next film I saw was the new film by Park Chan-wook, and it was Decision to Leave. This movie is fantastic. This is debatably my favorite film at the festival, and I think this movie is great. This is Park Chan-wook at his not his best. I still think The Handmaiden is his best movie, but like in terms like I'm gonna say it's like Park Chan-wook at his best because I don't think he makes bad movies. I think he makes amazing movies. My biggest issue with this movie is I found the opening to be kind of weird. The opening, like 10-15 minutes, are kind of like, what is happening? Like, the editing's a bit weird. I didn't really vibe with those moments. But when it dives into, like, the police procedural and then the bait and switch into, like, the romance film, it goes from great to really great to absolutely fantastic by the end. I was in love with the ending. I think the ending is so dark and beautiful and haunting, yet so like it's weird. I don't want to say romantic, but it's like it's so good. I found that all the leads is great. The soundtrack has like this old boy flavor to it, and I wonder if it was done by the composer of Old Boy because it has that. It kind of had like musical notes that remind me of like the Old Boy soundtrack. The cinematography is absolutely fantastic. Every shot is beautiful. every shot is like expertly crafted. I don't think there's a single bad shot in the movie. Honestly, in the way that Park Chan Wook just shoots everything and is just utterly breathtaking. There's a shot where they're climbing up on a roof and you see someone run across the roof and it's all in this one shot, and it's just absolutely gorgeous because it tells two bits of information at the same time without necessarily using two shots. Like, we don't see a person climb on the roof and then the person chasing him. Like, we see the climbing on the roof and the chase scene happen at the same time. And I was right, it was the composer of Old Boy, so I can understand. It definitely has more of an Old Boy sort of tone to it. I think this movie is great. I'm seeing that again on Monday, not Monday, I'm seeing it on Wednesday. I'm seeing this movie again. I think it's my favorite festival This is my favorite film of the festival. I think it might be one of my favorite movies of the year. I will let everyone know when I watch it again. I put it at number 1, kind of like temporarily. It's my favorite movie of the year. I think this can either go up or down depending on the second viewing, because a lot of the issues that I have with it might go away upon the second watch. Now that I know what I'm getting into, like, I can, I don't have to worry about missing out on information. I think this movie is great. I give it 4.5 stars. I could see this going up, I think 4.5 is where I'm gonna stick it with. I don't think it'll go to 5. I'll let everyone know it's a fantastic movie. It's the best movie of the festival, and yeah. So the next film I saw was Ashkal, and this movie is another police procedural, and it's about the sudden, basically, acts of people setting themselves on fire, and it's about these two cops who are investigating it. But one of the cops is kind of like not being trusted at the moment because her dad, it is part of the commission into looking, I think, into like police corruption from like the old regime. Because I think there was a dictatorship, and because it's based in Tunisia, so like, there's a dictatorship and it's exploring all that. The opening of this film, I think the opening half of this movie is really good. Then the other half is very meh, to like kind of like bad. I found the ending was so out of left field and so mind-boggling that I had no idea what I was watching by the end. I just was so confused. I felt like I was missing something, like I missed a whole half an hour movie. Like the film becomes very kind of like, it feels like, this is a great analogy. This feels like it had like the Michael Myers problem, where Michael Myers is a human being, but then suddenly can do mystical acts just for then it becomes this mystical fucking being in the next part. It has like the Halloween Kills problem, where like in Halloween he's a man, but in Halloween Kills he's a mythical being who can't die. This has the same issue by the entire movie. It's like a simple police procedural, but then it becomes this like film about like haunting and like mysticism, and like there's like other things at play beyond that are supernatural, and it's really weird, and I didn't particularly like it. I think that it's another film that is beautiful in terms of its visual styling. I think that it's gorgeous to look at. The cinematography is stunning. The score is great. I think all the acting is great. But it's like, it feels like two movies in one. It really does. It like starts off as like, it has the opposite issue that Decision to Leave have, where Decision to Leave starts as one movie, then becomes another movie. This starts off and it's done so well that the transition works well. It seems like what happens in JSA, which is also another Park Chan Wook movie. JSA starts as an investigation into a murder at the border between South and North Korea. Yeah, independent investigator, and then that turns into a film about like unlikely friendships during these weird circumstances. I think this tries to do something similar, where it starts off as a police procedural, then becomes this very like, supernatural, like horror-esque film. But I don't think that like direction change necessarily works for me. I didn't hate watching it. It's yet again another 2.5 star movie. I think I enjoyed watching it, but I don't necessarily think it was a good watch. I think there's other movies I would have rather watched than this, honestly. It's a good 2.5 stars. But I know that some people are really digging this movie, so maybe look into it yourself if you would like to watch it. But then the next film I watched was Subtraction. This is a film from Iran about basically a driving instructor who discovers that her husband goes to a mysterious building, but then realizes that but then she like, and her husband like kind of like denies, like, I didn't go to this building, like, because she thinks she's having like an affair. If she thinks he's having an affair, but then but then it turns out that they actually found doppelgangers of themselves, and this film is just really solid throughout. I don't think it ever goes beyond really good. I think that this film is at both times really like hopeful, and like I think that there's some really like great moments where it's like seeing like people overcome, like doing their best to overcome bad situations, and to like, I don't think saying hopeful is the right word, because but it's a film that it's like you think it's gonna be one movie, then like, and then it becomes a film about, oh, like they're gonna be like, it's gonna be like this nice movie, then it becomes really dark, and I love the dark direction it goes into. You know, there's been many doppelganger movies before where, you know, there's Enemy, there's Double, there's other doppelganger movies, but and I think this film is one of the few that I think it has a great dark ending that is truly shocking, and I did not see coming. It is, I think the ending is the best part of the movie, and there's a lot of like one of the few things like metaphorically I kind of understood about the movie. I won't talk about the movie, the metaphors, because it kind of spoils, like it goes into spoilers, but there's a lot to take away about what the film's trying to show, because like it isn't a spoiler to talk about, because like the husband from like there's like a poor couple and a rich couple, we'll kind of put it that way. And the poor couple, the husband's like really nice, is doing his best, you know, but like the wife clearly has like some mental problems and is like struggling to cope not being on medication, and is clearly like, you know, paranoid, and like for example, assume the worst in her husband and stuff like that over the incident, and like then you have the opposite where the wife is like the nice one, is like doing her best for like, is a loving, caring mother, is, you know, like doing her best to please, but then the husband doing her best, like, you know, in this situation, but then the husband's like kind of like a piece of shit and is an awful human. And without going any deeper, it really highlights a lot of interesting themes about the inner self, and about our inner, like how, like, I'm not gonna spoil it, because I think if I start spoiling it, I think it ruins. Like, if I start talking about the messaging, I think I'll spoil the movie. But like, there's a lot you can take away from how it presents the information and what the information is saying is. I think this is a really good movie. I would highly recommend people to go and watch this movie. It's a good watch. It's only like an hour and 40 minutes. It's really solid. I give this 3.5 stars. This is a really good little movie. And then the final movie I saw, which I just finished like nearly an hour ago, was 1976. This is a film about Carmen, who is basically goes to her like a summer beach house for the winter with her family, but then is asked by the local priest to attend to the wounds of a mysterious man. This film is, I think, a first time debut, like a first time feature, and there's it's one of the things where it's expertly directed, it's expertly acted, the soundtrack's great, it looks beautiful, the film, it feels like it's from 1976, but doesn't bash it down your skull that you're in 1976. But I never found the story that interesting. I would go on my phone a few times. I was never synced into the story. I found the story was, while there's some great moments of tension, I found that they were too few and far between to keep me really invested for the entire runtime. You know, I think I did have a good time watching the movie. It is not as a hugely negative experience, but I think the film is trying to build to something, and it doesn't really land the build up, or like it's building up to something that doesn't exist. Like, you think something is going to implode, and I understand, like, that might be the point of the movie. Without going spoilers, of course, that could be the point. But at the same time, it's like, if that is the point, I don't think that the point was conveyed well to me personally, or like it didn't land for me in any way, because I didn't find it tense enough that if it didn't, the fact that it wasn't really building to something, was meant to be like the big it's like this is how we're gonna end. Like, it didn't really work for me. I still think it's a good movie. I think I'm in the minority about this. I think a lot of critics are loving this movie, so I think do one of those things, like, do your own research into this. Like, always take my opinion for a grain of salt. I always have certain viewpoints when it comes to movies that might not align with you. So if there's anything that you see on here that, like, when you do your own research, it might be interesting watching, definitely go and watch it. I think, apart from Inland, don't watch Inland. Inland is bad. It's bad. So yeah, I give 1976 3 stars. I think it is a good movie. I just wish the story landed a bit better for me. So we're gonna do a thing. So I don't have an intermission slide for this. So I'm gonna do something quickly. I'm gonna do this and then click transition. Yeah. So basically, I want to do like a best in fest award, and basically my best in fest has to be something. I didn't do this for Edinburgh, but I'm gonna start doing this now from like any festival I attend. I'm gonna do like a best in fest award. Basically, I want this best in fest award to encapsulate like my favorite movie of the festival, but I also want it to be something that is not necessarily exclusive to the festival, but there's a special awe about it being at the festival, and I think showcases my love of the film festival, my love of film festival, and why it's important to go and celebrate film festivals. Because you might see films that might never get distributed again, or might never get wide distribution in the UK ever again, and that's why my best of fest might be a bit shocking to some people. Because under those criterias, my best of fest is gonna be The Woman in the White Car. That's my favorite film that I saw at the festival under that criteria. But you may be wondering, when I just said Decision to Leave was my favorite film of the festival, why I picked The Woman in the White Car as my best in fest. And the reason why is because Decision to Leave comes out in cinemas literally tomorrow, and it had its UK premiere in London on Friday. I think that while it is the best film to attend the festival, literally all the festival did was you got to see it a couple days early. And I think that like a film, and what I wanted to showcase is my best in fest to showcase the films that you may get a big distribution, you might get to see again. But I want it to be a film that showcases why film festivals are important, as you'll see different movies that you might not see again. You may never get to see The Woman in the White Car, depending on where you live, due to distribution rights. And I think that's what I want this award to signify, is to kind of like highlight these movies, so that it kind of gets these movies on radars, so like maybe it can get distribution and get some more love and respect. Films like there's like other films at the festival, like Pinocchio or Glass Onion, that while I didn't see, they're all getting big releases soon. So while yes, I could do 2 Best in Fest awards, but for something that I've done really quickly, we might do like 2 Best in Fest next time. Like, Best in Fest, like out like the Best in Fest, like the big ones are clearly getting like wide distribution, and the Best in Fest, like the the smaller movies. But for something that I just come up with 10 minutes ago, this is what I'm going for the time being. And The Woman in the White Car was the best film that I saw at the festival that kind of meets my criteria that I came up with. Because I think, like I said, even though Decision to Leave is the best film that I saw, it's coming out, and it's literally, there'll be showings of this movie in 12 in 17 hours. There's gonna be showings of this movie in Edinburgh. I think that's not really a good yeah, I just got a nice exclusive preview of the movie because it's at the festival. And like I said, I don't want that to be the point of this award. So that's what the point of the awards could be. Congratulations to The Woman in the White Car. You're a great movie, and you deserve all the love. Round of applause. But yeah, that is it for this stream. I'm gonna post this on Twitter that Best in Fest Award went to The Woman in the White Car. Great movie. Hopefully it gets a distribution. I don't fucking know. Hopefully it does. Thank you for watching this video or stream, depending on how you're watching it. I'm just gonna end here with the Best in Fest being The Woman in the White Car. I will do 5 reviews for 5 of my favorite movies. Probably gonna be Decision to Leave, The Woman in the White Car, Minnie's Latin and Uncle, Darling, Love Life, and I think Fast and Feel Love. I think are gonna be the 5 movies I'm gonna review from the festival more in a written form. So yeah, that's it for me. I will be back on Tuesday, back to a normal streaming schedule from Tuesday because the festival's over with. So I'll be back on Tuesday for more gaming. And I'll see everyone later. Have a good rest of your day.